A very warm welcome to our Digital Dialogue webinar series. Please note that these webinars are being recorded. As such, after these sessions, you can find the recording and the presentations on our website. In these webinars, we're looking at the latest trends in digital transformation, and more importantly, we're looking at how digitization is able to help us overcome some of the biggest challenges we're facing in our ever-changing world. I'm Rose Wesby, Director for Digital Transformation at ABB, and your moderator throughout this series. In this session, we're going to be hearing from Olaf Stutzenberger, who is joining us virtually from Germany. Olaf is the Marketing Communications Manager for Smart Buildings at ABB Electrification, and will be talking to us all about the topic close to our hearts in our work, but also in our personal lives, of course, how to make buildings smarter and, more importantly, perhaps more comfortable for each and every one of us. Now, Olaf is also here to answer your questions live. If you have any questions at all throughout the course of this webinar, please feel free to submit those questions anonymously through the Q&A function available to you through this webinar. As well as that, we will have a poll at the end, or near to the end at least, that we hope you take the time to fill in for us. But with that, it leaves me with nothing else to say but then to welcome our wonderful guest, Olaf, and hand over to you.
Thank you, Rose, for the introduction, and a warm welcome from my side as well. It's a pleasure for me to be here today and talk about smart buildings. As this year I'm with ABB and in the segment of smart buildings for now 20 years. And before my education journey, I was more or less connected to the topic of buildings as well. So from that perspective, I'm really happy to share with you some insights. So today, what's the topic? So the major headline, which I'm always taking, is creating a smarter future of homes, buildings, and mobility. For sure, the topic today is buildings, but the homes are the smaller buildings, the residential part, and with buildings, we often connect commercial buildings and this kind of things. And why is mobility here considered? The infrastructure of mobility is an important part, and most of the times connected to the infrastructure of buildings. So this is a part which has to consider, but will not be the core of today's presentation from my side. Let's talk about the major question, which is the topic of today: how to make buildings smarter and more comfortable. Smarter means more intelligent, and so on and so on. And some people might think that it is in contradiction, but indeed it don't have to be in contradiction, as the comfort is an important point, because buildings are there to serve the people's need, which are working in buildings, which spend their time in buildings, whatever they are doing there. And from that perspective, let's have a look how smarter building can be connected to a comfortable building. Okay, what is driving us here in this area? And there are two major topics, and one is for sure the digitalization, which has become really fast speed during this crisis, but it was before the crisis a topic as well, and in the future furthermore, because we're talking about connected things in buildings, and people are used to the internet, to their devices which are connected. And so here it's a number out of an analysis, but indeed we exceeded this number. But the major point is urbanization, because this brings really big construction into the cities, because it's predicted that a lot of people moving, and that today they are already moving to the cities due to several reasons. But the major point is that we have to take care when we have an increasing number of buildings that they will be part of our mission towards a sustainable future. So that they best in class would do not have would be CO2 neutral. So regarding the consumption of energy, so usage of renewable energy. But this is not the core of smart. Somehow connected, because another trends are this integration of flexible demand and flexible supply connected to the buildings. This because this is one point, and it's in buildings, and when they become smart, this can be managed in a quite interesting way and helpful way towards the topic of sustainability. Yeah, but this is really the driver, the urbanization, because with that a huge number of buildings in planning are currently constructed, and in the future much more. So when we're talking about buildings, and I said most times we're talking about commercial buildings, and with that the owners, the developers following business targets. And as I said in the beginning, this don't have to be contradictory to comfort. Although it's not mentioned here, comfort, you don't see it. So operators see for reduction operation costs, that's what they are looking for. In general, the owners looking for energy efficiency, best would be to be CO2 neutral, really to use only renewables. Safety is a topic. Another topic which is connected to this is security of the building itself, but for sure the tenants and the users, and for sure the reliability, because buildings normally have a long lifetime. And in the past I'd said, okay, change in technology will happen in buildings only when they are rebuilt. So today it's different. So the change in the technology in the last years will happen during the lifetime. So indeed, this is happening. Okay, but how does comfort plays a role? So as I said, the buildings are there to serve the needs of the users, of the tenants, the people spending times in the buildings. And when you think about working in buildings, then it's most important that people feel comfortable, so that they like their environment, and with that they like to go into this building and to work there, which increases the efficiency of their work. And this is another topic where then the tenants are looking for, and it's part of their decision during the development and construction phase. Yeah, and this is the journey then where we from ABB supporting the customers to make the right selection. So really using smart digital tools to find the right solutions. Because today I would say nearly everything is possible, but you need to select the right solution and bring it in the right way together. So then comes to the design, where the building information modeling, the BIM data are an important piece of it, depending on which engineering software you're using. So we're supporting here with eDesign. And later on, the topic of integration of all the devices to one system is important. And then it comes to the connectivity. If you think about remote control, remote maintenance, therefore we have established cloud infrastructure, which we call ABB Ability, where all the things come together in a cloud, which meets all the aspects of data security, cyber security, and all these things. Yeah, and then there are lots of apps available to make it easy for the maintenance, for the users to control the buildings. So this is alongside the journey what we can provide. It's not the end of our journey, but there's a lot available which support the whole process here. Yeah, let's have a look in some examples where this holistic, smarter approach is really important. And here, let's have a look into an office building. I already explained about the people who are working in there. And here we have a holistic solution from building management to energy management, control of lighting, shading, the HVAC control, and so on, with a lot of sensors and software in, which are there to serve the inhabitants. And one thing is very important. Often in the past, today not that much, but it still is the case that how the development and specifying such kind of systems comes from the technology point of view, but indeed it should be from the user's point of view, from the people who are working here, who are spending times in, how do they behave in different areas, and what are the scenarios in these areas, because it's different in a single office room than in an open office or in a conference room or other areas of an office building. And this has to be considered because you can bring in a lot of automation which meets then the business targets. So to bring in more energy efficiency. But is it that then at the end when or how people would feel comfortable? So because sometimes I feel that all the automated systems are imposing them, and this is not what they want to do. They want to be in the position to be able everywhere to intervene, so to take off the automation. And this is a little bit tricky when it comes to specifying such kind of systems, but takes a look from the user's view, use smart technology, and really look to the behavior, daily behavior, and the scenarios which are in different areas. And this is different in an office and in a university, for instance. So another example with a huge installation. So you can see more than 2,000 lighting points, 700 roller blinds were integrated in a holistic systems from power distribution, from the point of supply to every point in the building, and all the automation in between to make, for instance, then the classes in there useful, because there the scenario is different. So they have face-to-face schooling, they have presentation with different media, and so on. They have practical parts there, and these are different scenarios to be considered. And every time it might change, so that not only the automated solution counts, you can bring things together, but in some scenarios, the people need to step in, and this will bring then more acceptance to this automation when you have the chance and the ability to step in. Okay, so, and this is important. In big systems like this examples, it's important that you take care to use open standards. For instance, in the building automation part, we are pretty much relying on the KNX standard, the worldwide standard for building automation. And in the HVAC area, we are relying on the BACnet standard, but there are different other communication protocols, standards, and so on out there. And for that, we're integrating them with gateways. I would say today maybe a more old-fashioned way, but still valid. And another way is with our open APIs, which we have for all the systems, which make it rather easy then to integrate other systems with different protocols. So remind, open standard is very important to make the whole solution really one system, and then it would be easier in the part of integration and commissioning later on. Yeah, but that's today. Let's have a short outlook what we as ABB see would be scenarios which is really smart building can have, and how it can serve other needs and future scenarios. So coming to the outlook, and what are future possibilities, especially with our cloud connection via ABB Ability Cloud, is, for instance, the topic of personalization. We took here the example of camera recognition. So this is technology which is available. Where you have to take care of is regarding the people rights. So, but for that there are possibilities to have anonymous recognition when it comes really where you need the people information. That's different, but there are solutions out there which can meet even the GDPR, the people rights, and so on. So take in consideration individual needs in the future, and this by the building itself. So we're talking here about not only a smart building, we're talking about a learning building, so that depending on changes in individual needs in the daily behavior, building can learn how the building is used and change the settings. So this is another thing. Routing, when we know the persons, then it's rather easy. From access control to guidance through the building when it comes to really a huge area. And the other thing is about the really smart buildings, the easy integration of the devices by the building itself. So these are topics where we are thinking about how we can implement this with our technology. Some bases are made, but the core is that every and each device needs for sure be connected and needs a little bit of intelligence, I would say. Yeah. Okay, the personalization. So beginning with access control at the front of the building, and if people are recognized, maybe by the camera or whatever is possible, there might be other possibilities in the future as well. So that you don't need a key. But then with the set of this person, the individual needs, how he feels comfortable in different areas of the building. And then the building can set up itself to the individual needs. So when the person steps into the building, another possibility would be so that he's guided through the building to the right floor. The elevator automatically knows where to stop. And then at the floor, the people, this person is guided to the right desk. When you think about the open desk, which a lot of companies today already have, but during this crisis, a lot of companies thinking about to shift single offices to this kind of office, because the working behavior shifts that we will not all work all days from home, but who are able would work more days from home, but in the office it's this essential part when it comes to the communication in between the people. So this has to be in the future. My personal opinion, so it's not possible that we will work all lifetime from home in all areas. Some areas might be different, but in general, I wouldn't say that this is a good idea. So so when you find a way, maybe another routing option would be then, in case of emergency, that you guide it in the right direction out of the building. So then you could say, okay, there are emergency lights out there already, but intelligent building will recognize where the emergency is and find for you the best way out of it, and then indicate it through the emergency lights. So, because normally there are fixed routes, but in case in bigger buildings one route is blocked due to the emergency, how can you, if you're not familiar in the building, find the right way? And this could be managed by intelligent learning building. So then, more slide, coming back to the topic of well-being, what I emphasized at the beginning. So if people feel comfortable, they are more productive and they like their environment, so they are happy to go to their work environment if they feel comfortable. And there are different things that could be considered. One is anonymous people counting. This is already a thing which is possible today, just to count the number of people, because this has an influence on the air quality, on the heating or cooling, can be controlled by this. Maybe another thing, individual. So a lot of people already have variables. Here it needs to be considered that there are individual data, but inside the building they could be transferred in an anonymous way, so that you know how they feel, but you don't know who feels how. So, and that's important. But this is an important figure then that a learning building could take to set up via the controls, the settings of the building in terms of airflow, lighting, temperature, and so on. And the learning building will then be able to optimize the daily settings, because the building can learn how the different areas are used. So depending on the tenant and so on. And this helps them, especially to this topic, well-being, but in general, how a building is operated, which counts in then in the operational costs. Yeah, and another thing is that a learning building then will be able to recognize the devices automatically, which supports the process of the commissioning. For sure, the installation has to be done by a person because it's mechanical work, but then later on, when it comes to the commissioning, and the learning building already recognize the devices and makes proposals how it should be integrated, speeds up the process of commissioning. And this could be done either on-site, but then later on preferable from remotely via the cloud, where you today already connected. But this is then an option together with the learning building by the use of artificial intelligence, that this will speed up the process and reduce even failures in the part of commissioning. Yeah, and then a topic when you have a intelligent building and all things connected, all devices, is something which is known in a lot of areas in industrial application, but not that familiar in buildings. But this comes along if you have really a smart building, so that the learning building especially is able to have a prediction of a product damage. So this so-called predictive maintenance, to make recommendation which maintenance should happen. And with that, the learning building, based on the operation of it, can make further suggestions about operating the building and all the other things like the maintenance. And one step further, with all the data, base or start point, the building information model, this BIM data, take into account, and the daily behavior and how a building is operated, a building can learn and make, with the help of artificial intelligence, suggestions how improved building could look like. Even complete parts of the cities. And this is really things where we can reach day-by-day improvement, because the learning buildings will support this and help really to get at the end best-in-class buildings, which meets the business targets, but has the right comfort so that people feel comfortable, like their environment, and with that they are more happy to spend time in these buildings. Okay, coming to my conclusion, and after that I'm happy to answer your questions. So if you turn your building into a smart building, so a lot of things needs to be considered. So That's a building automation system. What is about the energy distribution and storage when it comes to renewable energy? Then the power quality counts in terms of safety and security. What is with entry and security systems regarding the access control? Atmosphere, air quality, lighting systems are more and more important because the light influence people well-being. So the connectivity, remote maintenance, remote control for the operators, and then the demand side control, another thing which I mentioned at the beginning. And when you have really a smart building with connected and intelligent devices, then an upgrade of an installation means basically a software update where you can bring in additional services, additional features, so that the building can operate in a better way, based on the learnings of the buildings. So which then would support the topic of lowering the maintenance and energy costs and so on, operation costs in general. Yeah, and at the end, one outcome would be then with all this could be one target to get to meet compliant or to achieve compliance on higher class energy efficiency standards. So that's then one point, but the targets can be set by the developer, by the owner, by the tenants later on. And this is one thing which I think it's most important for future to meet a sustainable future with best zero emission buildings. Okay, with that I'd like to overhand to our moderation and start the Q&A. Thanks so far.
Thank you, Olaf. And before we move to the Q&A session, we do have a poll for our audience. I hope you can see that on your screen now. That's for all our audience members. Do take the time to fill that in. And as you do, we will start with a couple of questions, Olaf. So just to begin with, you talked about a lot of different, let's say, use cases that we are fulfilling with these solutions. But what technologies really form the basis of all of these solutions?
Yeah, as I said, so important open standard, and here some to mention. So first, for the management level and connection all over the building is a IP standard to mention, which is essential when you want to connect to the cloud, to the internet. And today we see that this is one major standard to connect everything, as the developers and or the planners distinguish between the common communication network and the building network for all the technologies. And then it comes to the field level, and here we rely, as I said, pretty much on the KNX standard for the building automation, on the electrical part, I would say. And on the HVAC part, it's a BACnet standard where we rely on. So there are some more out, but I think these are today the most important standards on building management level and on field level.
Thanks, Olaf. So we've heard over the last couple of days through our digital dialogues a lot of a mention of sustainability and how we need to do more to achieve some quite aggressive targets that are set. But Olaf, where do you see the biggest opportunity when it comes to energy saving?
They're different. So when we focus on the buildings, what I said, then it's for sure the commercial buildings here. And the biggest potential in energy savings is the HVAC part. To meet this today, only an intelligent system can help, because in most of the countries we have a good standard in the outside of the building, in the isolation, but internally there's a lot to do, and especially in existing commercial buildings. And the renovation here to bring new technology in, this is a point. And when you look into existing buildings, this area, the HVAC area, is still the biggest, where the biggest potential is in.
I understand from you, Olaf, that we're able to achieve more when we integrate all of these solutions together. So what building management solutions can we expect from ABB in the next coming years?
Yeah, it will be not a complete new one. So building management systems are today out. So we're focusing on integration, different technologies, different protocols. This is really big work, as I said. So we are already started with an open API, not for all systems, but for many systems already. So, and our system where we rely on today have an open API so that other systems can connect. We can connect to them. So this is a topic how it works. Another thing is still the gateways, hardware gateways, which are used. But when it comes to learning building, we are working more on one building operating system, which already has everything included, so that there's a easier way for seamless integration of all these different technologies.
Fantastic. Thank you, Olaf. I'm afraid that's all we have time for today. So thank you so much to our audience for taking the time to join us. As we close this session, you will be prompted to fill in a short survey with feedback for us on this session. We would be very grateful if you could fill that in. It's very important to us. But with that, it only leaves me to say thank you so much to Olaf for joining us from Germany live.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you so much to our audience members as well for taking the time to join these digital dialogues throughout this series. Now, in case you had to miss a couple of our previous sessions, those will all be available to you through the ABB website. So do take the time to see what you missed out on. There's some wonderful keynote speakers and even better experts and guests from ABB on those sessions. But with that, I do hope you enjoyed this digital dialogue, and we hope that you remain safe and well. Thank you.
Bye-bye.